You are listening to the Mary Jane Society podcast, where you will meet entrepreneurs, cultivators, scientists, doctors, and inventors in the cannabis industry.
I'm your host, Pam Schmiel, marketer and publicist in the cannabis industry. Alex Rogers grew up in the Northeast California, Oregon area and has been in the cannabis industry for a few decades. He moved his family to Slovenia, where his wife is from, and founded the International Cannabis Business Conference, also known as ICBC, a B2B cannabis business conference that's been running for about 10 years and attracts people around the globe. He's now launching an extension of the conference with the Talman House, a private membership club for investors and businesses to network. Alex talks about his new venture, the Talman House, investor interest in Europe, and the state of the European cannabis industry. Let's meet Alex. Can you just tell us what the Talman House is and the team? We'll just start with that. Get into all
Sure. The Talman House was made, basically, I founded the ICBC, and that became the biggest B2B event, trade show event in the Eastern Hemisphere in Berlin every year. And so I created this big network. I have probably one of the biggest B2B, or probably the biggest B2B network in Europe. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to do something that was more niche and focused on really pushing the industry in Europe forward. And I thought the best way to do that was to link the right people together, which I had already been doing on more of a macro level. The ICBC Berlin is pretty big. It's going to be about 5,000 people next April.
Wow, 5,000 people? That's amazing.
Yep. And well, we've worked hard. We built it. Been building it since 2017, and of course, Germany legalized in April. And when I say legalized, some people say that's a misnomer, but I don't consider it a misnomer. And I'm digressing here, but I'll get back to it because it's all contextually relevant. They actually did legalize, because here's the deal: is that Europe is the EU will not allow for adult use regulation, right? So they won't allow for it. If a country does it, they have a strong chance of being sued by the European Commission or the European Union. So what Germany did is they took cannabis off the narcotics list. They did a lot of things, right? But one of the most important things they did was they took cannabis off the narcotics list. And what that did was it created a de facto legal system. They already had this sort of de facto legalization system under medical, very robust program, and it was driving the European medical industry. However, medical cannabis industry. However, when they took it off the narcotics list, Pam, it became a little wild, wild west, and it could be for better or for worse. We might see some regression on that, where they're at. But basically, you have a de facto legalization system fully because it came off the narcotics list, already had a robust medical system, and medical boomed, went crazy. And it can be compared, the analogy, which I actually, as prescient as I have been in the European cannabis market, I did not predict that you would have a de facto medical system similar to how it was in California, Oregon, Colorado before legalization, right? So we all remember these golden times in California, Oregon. I mean, the irony is that so this is why I'm a little bit shocked, because the irony was that and I would tell this to Europeans and they'd get a kick out of it. I said medical was less regulated than adult use, and they'd be like, "Oh, very interesting, because we go through the pharmacies and da 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 da." Well, it turned out the pharmacies figured out how to be de facto dispensaries in Germany and specialize in cannabis. So now when you go into some pharmacies, it's like going into a dispensary in America. So the situation is very comparable in Germany now to what it was in individual states like California and Oregon, let's say 10 years ago. when we had a de facto legalization system under medical. It was pretty wild, wild west. It was quasi regulated, and everybody was, basically a lot of people were making money and thriving. Communities were thriving. And then adult use, it all consolidated. So I like what's happening in Germany right now because it's a de facto system that is letting the little guy, or little enough, you still have to be somewhat of a player, but not like major conglomerate type stuff happening yet. So it's a really sweet time in the market, and so that's why the ICBC is going to be a big reason why we're about double in size next year, because of what's happened in Germany. Also, they have the social clubs. Also, seeds and clones are legal commercially, and then you have a couple other things. The German government just collapsed, so two of the second prong of the KNG law in Germany is a little bit in question of how robust or how it'll be implemented. But anyway, I have this big network for this big event, kind of on a macro thing, 5,000 people, and so I wanted to create a niche event with investors, with startups or companies that need capital, and I wanted to create a private environment where they could connect, right? And a curated environment where they connect. It's not unlike something that the ArcView might have done 15 years ago when they started out in America. It's somewhat similar to that, except it's completely private. The events, you can't buy a ticket to the event, and investment's not predicated upon the events per se. It's a accelerator for investment and people to network and to meet face to face. However, Talman House has a private portal. So if you're a member, you get three things to the Talman House. You get the access to the startups on the private portal and the companies that need capital. Boom. You get access to the other members of the Talman House on the private portal, and then you get access to the events. And then if you're a business sponsor or business membership, they actually get a sponsor to all the events, all the really cool, amazing events that we have in the Talman House planned for 2025. And that's it. It's a very simple model, and we just are connectors. It's just more direct relationship building and more direct curation of the events themselves, and it's all private.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, somebody had to do this, and you're right, you're the perfect person to, manipulate that. Just out of curiosity, so you're generating revenue through the Talman House through just the membership and all that, and sponsorship and things like that. You're not an investor in specific companies. You're not looking to invest. Is that right? Kind of.
Correct. We don't invest. Maybe we might grow into that with some type of like
Yeah.
equity fund or something like that in a year or two or three. But no, right now our business model is completely membership driven. We do, if a deal happens through one of our members on the startup side, we have a service fee, but we don't, but
Mm,
but we don't take a penny from them up front to get them ready, pitching at events and so on, because there's no pay to play for the startups, because the brunt of our model is based on the membership fees. And
right.
it's a small membership fee. Actually, it's $3,000 and $5,000 respectively for an individual or business membership. So we keep the entry points
That's amazing.
super low, yeah, but high enough where you gotta, it's still, you
Yeah,
gotta come
right.
in
It's not.
and
Yeah,
commit, right?
right.
And so that's the point, is to find that equilibrium where, and so when you pen the model out over 5 years, the Talman House, we make more money off the memberships than we would any service fees that we would get if deals happen. So it's really cool in that we literally just connect. We don't get involved in the deals. We don't even do what would be typical due diligence, Pam. We have our own set of metrics that we get a lot of deal flow and we eschew most of it, but maybe 10% goes on our portal. And but we're not doing a traditional due diligence process. That is with the sounds like a disclaimer, but this is actually the model. If an investor wants to get a hold of a company, they can, and then it's the onus lies on them to do their own due diligence.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. They're going to do that anyway. So, you know,
Right.
right, right. And,
We don't incubate, we don't accelerate, we don't.
okay.
None of that.
That's what I was wondering if, like, for the startups, are you doing you're just connecting? That's what you're saying. So the startups don't come in, they're not getting, yeah, accelerator help or any sort of support system or anything.
We have outsourced partners. If we sense a need that they might need something that we deem, important or germane for their process to get funded, then we do have outsourced partners. But it's an outsourced partner. We don't get involved in that at all. We just might identify an issue, and then be through our network, be able to expedite the help for the company, and just show them some options of what they might need.
And that's part of the deal too, is to be able to have access to professionals who, how else would you really find someone, kind of vetted out in a way, like if they need a lawyer or an accountant or, somebody who's dealt with, regulations across countries or, things like that.
Exactly, and that's what I think we're already the biggest private cannabis club in Europe. We just launched 2 months ago, and we just had our first event in Munich, which was very successful, and people really like the private, intimate atmosphere with all, for lack of a better term, all big players,
Yeah,
and the networking was phenomenal. So I see, as the market grows in Europe, this small, like you said, this is needed. Someone had to do it. This is the
yeah.
type of thing that everybody says they're going to do or wants to do, right? And is very difficult. But I'm in a good position to make this happen.
Yeah, perfect position. So would you mind telling us how many people you have in the Tallman group now? I mean, you've only launched
So
months ago.
we have close to 50 members already, Pam, which I'm pretty stoked on, and it was even a little better than I thought. I mean, we kind of hit the ground running. We prepared for about 8 months before we launched. It was perilous, like starting any business.
Yeah,
Uh, and we
God.
figured it out. We got everything. Finally, got everything in line, and we launched. And there was a need for it. And I think that not only was there a need for it, there's been a need for it, but the timing is especially good now with what's happened in Germany. And Trump's, if anyone is going to legalize or disrupt or do safe banking or help reschedule, I'm very confident the Trump administration would do it. They were very good with hemp in the previous
That's right.
administration,
Yeah, that's right.
and I'm very happy. These cabinet picks are making me happy because the last ones were all neocons, and who's the guy with the, like, John Bolton or whatever. It's like, oh my God, help us. And I was like, oh, Bobby Kennedy for health secretary. I'm like, okay, that sounds cool to me.
That sounds cool. I know, really. Come on. He's going to disrupt too. I know. It's going to be really interesting. I'm kind of excited about it, honestly.
It,
Can't say
it's
that too
very
loudly.
exciting. But you can now, because even I'm a registered Democrat my whole life. I consider myself a lefty, actually. And people say, "Why'd you vote for Trump?" And I didn't actually vote for him the first time. I couldn't, even though I kind of felt guilty, I didn't. But the second time, I was like, "Oh my God."
I
And people
know.
are like, "Why'd you vote for him?" I said, "Because I'm a progressive liberal." I'm
Yeah.
pro-choice, but I'm also states' rights. So it's a
Exactly.
that's a,
I feel like I can't choose one side. I never have. I go back and forth. It just depends. And
right.
you have to choose what's the most important to you. And, that's just,
Yeah, you have to weigh it out. And for
yeah.
me, World War not funding Ukraine is a huge issue for me. It's a big thing. I live in Europe. I'm about 500 miles away from Ukraine. So
Wow.
uh, yeah, yeah, and we know what's going on here. We understand politically, but in terms of cannabis,
Yeah. Yeah.
because we could digress into
Yeah. Yeah. We
geopolitics
could.
all
Okay.
day.
Yeah.
But the timing is so right, and I do believe the Trump administration. If it was the other guys, the Democrats haven't. We've been holding our breath too long. I remember Obama's first 4 years. That's why I just saw Dana Rohrabacher at my office just an hour ago. Dana Rohrabacher was in my office in Ljubljana, Slovenia, not even an hour ago, just before I got on this podcast, and he's the author of the Rohrabacher-Farr, the Rohrabacher-Blumenauer Amendment, which was basically spawned from Obama's first years of busting down doors and arresting people in medical states, but going into the dispensaries. Not just an extension of of the Bush policies. And so Dana came up with the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment, which defunded the DEA agencies to go into medical states to crack skulls for no reason. And that was one of the, if not the biggest piece of legislation or part of legislation ever in cannabis history. So now you see, eventually, all we have to do is do safe access and a reschedule. So you don't need to federally legal. From what I hear from Trump's camp, they're not going to federally legalize it. They're going to do safe access and they're going to reschedule it, right?
Hmm.
And that's all you need for then the institutional investors to come into the game, which they've had a lot of trepidation. And when that happens, then it's really game on. And then the relationship between Europe and America, which in regards to the cannabis industry, which I've been helping build for many years now, is going to go bonkers, because that's when all the big companies in America then, and this is for better or for worse, because we're going to then see consolidation in Europe when the
Yeah.
big the American companies want to, the European companies want to sell to the big cannabis American companies, the big cannabis American companies want to sell to the big pharma companies, right?
Right, 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 right.
So when those things happen, reschedule or safe bank and safe banking, then those types of, that's what's going to happen. The institutional money is going to come in. You'll see Philip Morris or Big Pharma or whatever. They're going to come in and they're going to try to control up the game. And a lot of people are going to get a lot of big exits.
What did Dana say anything to you, like just any comments about what he is happening? You know, it's always the question when you get to talk to someone who's kind of in the know on Capitol Hill. Like, what was any feedback that he gave you he thinks is
Well,
happening?
some of the feedback I'm giving now on
Is
cannabis,
what he, yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
that's, and we've known this has been Trump's plan for a long time. Now he didn't do it in in his first session, but we think that this is a more disruptive session in our tenure in general, and that we will see it hopefully within the next 2 years. And
Okay.
so he thinks that's going to, and Bobby Kennedy is uh, he's pro
Yeah.
cannabis and pro health in general and
Right. It just
personal
all ties
choice and
together.
freedom. It does all tie together. So I think we're in for some super exciting times. And I think this disruptive crew will at least de facto legalize cannabis in those aforementioned ways.
Yeah, I know, it's exciting. So, for your current members, are they, I guess, spread across Europe? Are they concentrated in Germany? Are there any Americans in there?
Yeah, they're from all over the world, actually. All over Europe, countries in Europe, from Portugal to Germany to France to Poland to England to, and then all over, and then we have, I don't know, we have maybe from America, maybe actually 25% are from
Oh,
America. I have a lot of connections here in America, and I get a lot of Americans and Canadians to come out to Europe for the Berlin ICBC, and so a lot of them are very excited about this, to have a little niche networking thing that they can do all their business, because that's what I do, is I get people from America and Canada and all around the world actually to come into Europe to do business. So the ICBC has people from over 80 countries represented at it. So that's what so the Talman House has been kind of a proportional representation of this bigger constituency, if you will.
right, right. And so the startups that are in there, are like who are the people that are in there now? What are their professions? And like what kind of startups are in there? What are the opportunities that they're kind of
We
showing? us.
Yeah. We have a lot of tech. We like tech stuff, you know. So whether it's growing technology or whether it's polling technology, I actually don't handle that side of things because for the one of the first times in my life, I have a team handling.
That
I'm actually
must feel
I'm
good.
trying to be a real CEO here, Pam, not just a crazy rapper social scientist,
Oh, that's too funny. I love it.
uh, but no, we have it runs the gamut. We
I
have a lot
forgot
of
you're a rapper. I love it.
vertical, a vocalist, a
A
vocalist dog.
vocalist. Oh my God.
uh, and so we have like verticals, a lot of European companies. We have gadgets, cool new gadgets, technology, some IP stuff. I mean,
Like
that's the. Mhm.
what kind of like get like as I okay, I mean, I know you're not really into that, overseeing that, but like I'm just wondering, is there new technology coming out that like someone in the United States would be interested in? Is it like retail tech and you're saying gadgets? Are there things that you think are new that aren't here? Is that
Yeah, I mean, we have uh, so we've received about 150 decks, and we've got about maybe even a little more, 20 we chose out of that 150 decks. And we do not have a specific criteria. I think as we build more and we get feedback from our members,
Mm,
we will then be able to, maybe have a different criteria of things we're looking for, or also just being able to do direct matching, right? So if we know one of our members is looking for this type of thing, then we can match them directly with whether they're plant touching, non-plant touching, or um, whether they want to have a vertical or just or they don't want to deal with growing but everything else but growing. uh, but yeah, there's some crazy technology out of Germany. We just had someone pitch at our last event that has and again, I'm not a scientist either, but they
mhm.
have some new plasma technology that doesn't have to irradiate the cannabis and keeps because if you want it GMP certified, you can
Mhm.
grow it GMP, or you can grow it and then pull it and then make it GMP. And obviously, the best way for you want it with cannabis, you just want to grow it GMP, and that's that. But a lot of the cannabis coming into the market in Europe, it has to be irradiated, and nobody wants to smoke there's a lot of questions of which irradiation is better, good, or
Mm,
worse, and so anyway, there's some new technology out there like plasma, like technology, like crazy shit that I don't even understand. But people seem to be pretty hype about it. And I
mhm.
know as a Rasta hippie weed smoker that I don't like to, I want to smoke the pure, most natural product possible, right? I mean, anybody, you don't have to be a Rasta or hippie to
Yes.
want to have the most natural smoke. So it's kind of an issue in Europe that a lot of stuff is being irradiated, and tolling is a big business here. And so tech that kind of can solve or help with issues like that are things. I mean, we're fortunate, Pam, to have everybody and their dog be giving us their plan, right?
Yeah.
So
Everyone in
we
there.
got one guy. It's an online thing because now everything's online. So in Germany, you get online. You can get you don't even have to leave your house to get cannabis. You just
Mm,
call, you get your prescription, and it gets delivered to you.
that's amazing. Obviously, we can't have that here.
I mean, can any state have that? That's a good question.
No, no. I mean, you can only ship hemp products. You can't ship any cannabis, any THC. There's no e-com here. It has to be physically picked up in the store.
I'm so far removed from the states, so there's no state you can send the cannabis. Yeah.
No.
So in Europe, not only can you send the cannabis in Europe, but now you could smoke everywhere in Germany. So it's a real trip because
Oh my
smoking's a
gosh. Really?
yeah, yeah, it's illegal. It's
Well, here,
decriminalized fully.
well, New York City is the only place, I don't think it's all New York State, I'm in New York City, you can smoke anywhere where you can smoke cigarettes. So that's what we're
Yeah,
known for here, is like people just walking around.
that's
puffing.
awesome. And that's the same thing in Germany. You can smoke anywhere you can smoke cigarettes, you can smoke a joint
Oh, that's amazing.
countrywide.
Wow, that's amazing because I know some countries have opted out. Well, I want to just actually quickly go back and ask you about the some of the tech. I know when I interviewed someone there last year, they were saying some of the you know, clogs in the supply chain is pharmacists are required to actually, you know, fill the prescriptions themselves manually, basically, and, you know, fill all the orders. So that's hard to do because now they're getting so many orders and they can't automate it. So what they're doing is the pharmacist can be there, has to oversee the automation of the filling. So if they had, you know, somebody built a customized, you know, robotic filling system, there has to be a pharmacist overseeing this. So at least they're kind of solving it instead of the pharmacist physically having to do it. I was just curious, that was one uh bottleneck that I had learned of, if there was anybody talking about things like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we have, yes, we have machinery for pharmacies. There's a, yeah, there's robotics machines involved for not only preparing but then dispensing also. And yeah, they definitely found a way. This pharmacies have to do magistral preparations, and so
Right.
when they get it, they can't just sell it how they got it. They have to repackage it or whatever, and
Right.
they're figuring out all the things. We don't have a company particularly for pharma tech right now. You know what? I can't even tell you right now of because we have so many of them and I'm not in charge of that, and we're just
Pharma tech.
blasting off so hard. But um, uh, I think we have one dispensing robot that we have, and we have like right now on our portal we have about 25 companies that we vetted through for the last five of them came from our basically, and then we get about maybe we put maybe one new company on a week, right?
Mm.
So that's where we're at with the companies, and it really runs the gamut, man. We have zero metrics of how we at this point how we assess with. We have zero classic metrics. We look at team. We look at the idea. I do have some very uh, important people that know a lot more about the industry doing this vetting process
Mm.
than more they know more about the industry than I do doing this vetting process, and I trust them implicitly, and they're doing an amazing job. So you know, honestly, most of the companies we get, we just know, you know, everybody thinks their idea is the best, and they think that they overvalue their idea generally speaking. And so what my team is a bunch of entrepreneurs that have been through everything already.
Mm.
So we just, you know, sense bullshit. Not that anyone's being intentionally specious, right? Uh, no, like I said, people believe in their ideas. We like this. Passion is definitely important to have, but we're trying to pick the entrepreneurs. You know, we don't invest in the, you know, it's not the, it's the team we really invest in. It's the synergy, it's the vibration. Of course, it's got to be a good idea. Of course, it can't be uber overvaluated. But because we have so much experience in this industry, because we are able to see what is going to happen in Europe, because we kind of have the ability to look through the lens of, you know, what happened in America and see what's past as prologue. Now we're able to say, oh, well, you need this, and we were going to need these types of things. And so my team is completely on it. And you know, if anybody has a startup that they want to, or a company that needs money and they want to send us their deck, I encourage them to do so, and we'll be brutally honest with you. And most, like I said, most people don't make it the cut, but if we like the product, and we think that the team is solid, you know, we're there. But tech stuff is definitely something that's always good for the cannabis industry. You know, I think cannabis industry is a little far behind on the on how they can just organize everything in general. And so we love getting folks. I know we love getting folks who are outside the cannabis industry also, that come in and have some disruptive technology that they've used maybe in another arena, and they say, well, this might work in the cannabis industry also.
Right, right. Oh, that's interesting too. So what is the appetite from investors over there? Like, so did you said you had your first was it
Yeah.
in Munich? Was it a pitch session? Is that for the
We
startup?
had we had 4 pitches, Pam. We did. We you know, we'd had a lot of networking and educational sessions also. We had 4 companies that pitched there, and one was a vertical from Italy.
Mm,
The other was the plasma one that I was talking to you about. The
mm,
other one was a vertical from France.
mm.
And then what's the first one? Veralytics. They were quite impressive, and
Mm.
that was a new tech company for able to monitoring your grow operation through some really like military style, I don't like super
Wow.
tech.
There seems to be, I have to check this out a little bit more, but there seems to be a lot of good tech, in America even, that people keep for cultivation, that keeps coming up. So it seems like there's some good opportunities in there. But are the
Appetite was, we're working on funding 2 of these companies right now from the event, and uh, it's incumbent upon me to build this, right, to a point where we do have some institutional investors who are members, but that's the goal. When I built it, I said, well, I'm going to go to all my big wigs in the cannabis industry that I know. We'll get them. I do know some crossover folks. I'll get them, and then once I built it to a certain level, then I'm reaching out to we do have some pretty big financial companies on board as members. I don't want to discount the members who are already on board, because we're extremely thankful and fortunate to have them. But they want to, they know what we're here to do too, and that's we're going to go out and get more institutional investors, whether it's private equity or investment banking or family offices. There's a lot in Europe. So the taste was
Oh,
obviously not very good for cannabis investment since 2019, right? And now it's coming back. The timing is really good. And so
yeah.
it's incumbent upon me to create and curate this environment where we have good people, good companies, we do good curation, and then we get the right people in the room, and we get the money in the room. And if we don't have the money in the room, then we're just pissing in the wind. And I had the Global Investment Forum for years, and that was not good. I didn't do a good job. I ran it like the ICBC, and that's when about a year ago I pivoted and turned it into the Talman House, this completely different model that's private and direct relationships, direct curation, and it was the smartest thing to do whilst good timing. So it's incumbent upon me to build this to a certain level, and then get the institutional investors in, and that's what we plan to do. And we have a strategy over the next year to bring in a lot of family offices.
That's great.
Europe, yeah.
What are there any multi-country operators, which are really kind of well American or Canadian, like the Tilray, Curaleaf, or um any of
Well,
those people in
Tilray are in
your membership?
Germany. No, no, they're not yet.
Okay, I'm just wondering if
Well,
they're
yes, well, let's see, are they? Kind of they are, but I don't want to talk about
okay,
it, but a
yeah.
subsidiary of one of
o- Okay. Yeah,
them.
I mean, I would think, companies like that would be interested in, getting into your group, because, you don't know what's bubbling up over there with the startups. I mean, you could have a gem sitting in there that could just, be perfect for them. I would think they'd be poking around or trying to be in your membership.
They definitely are. Yeah. I mean, between the ICBC and the Talman House, they're poking around, and we do have actually one of those companies is, well, a subsidiary might be on board.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah,
plus plus many other big companies, but there are multi-state MSO, right? What is a European MSO? And it's a different animal but it's kind of similar, right? But no, there are no real multi-state operators. There's people who are operating in multiple different countries, in terms of the European companies. Um,
but it's not a supply chain vertical operation.
no, no. I mean, it's funny because a lot of the countries that would be supplying Germany, it might not even be legal in that country to use medical cannabis.
Really?
So, so it's a very it's like the United States of Europe here in terms of each
Yeah.
country is different, but then there's no uniform regulation federally through the EU, which we have an event in Brussels on May 15th that will, kind of talk about these issues and how we can get more uniformity in the EU, in terms of cannabis policy. But no, I think, Portugal, a lot of stuff comes out of Portugal. So there are companies in Portugal that you might say are multi-state operators.
Right,
You
I
might
see
say,
Portugal. Yeah, I see Portugal on the, always pop up for people. Yeah, I guess cultivation, shipping out.
yeah, you might say Sanity Group in Germany. I mean, I know they're doing work in Switzerland also,
Mm.
right? So here we're starting to get this idea of multi-state uh, operators. And well, really, there's only one country that it's legal in, and that's Germany. I mean, you have Malta and Luxembourg, but those aren't real markets, right? So
Right.
the next markets to come online right now are Portugal's medical market. I'm sorry, Poland's medical market.
Okay. Oh,
Misspoke.
okay.
And then the Czech market, the Czech legal. That means they're doing a lot of things to legalize cannabis. And then we have some great things happening here in Slovenia also, where I,
I've been seeing that too. I know you're like pushing that country. Um,
this
I
isn't my home, so.
no, I know. Is there any sector of the industry that you think is more appealing to investors, like the cultivation, manufacturing, ancillary, or that they're, because retail and brands are far away because you're
Right.
really in a medical market. Um, uh, I guess, yeah. And then I'd like to ask the question about the brands, like where, from months ago, like where does it stand for the possibility for brands to develop?
Yeah, I think I think verticals are attractive to investors. Startup is kind of a misnomer. We have companies that are startups but have been around for a couple of years still doing it. So what is a startup? And I think they like tech too. I think investors are very much into tech. They like vertical. They like seeing things done on, that we're gonna get it done on every end here. Um, and then there's the cultivation. Everybody wants to be a grower, but everybody doesn't either because there's a lot of risk in cultivation. And as we know from the U.S., to
Right.
mitigate that is to your real estate purchase. So investors where there's hard asset involved with the money, they like that also.
Do you see any opportunity for any partnerships from the US? Like if you were a company in the US, that's
Yeah.
just the big question here all the time. If you were a big company, where would they start poking
So
around?
the MSOs want to yeah. So the MSOs are good. They're ready, right? They're just waiting for a few things to change in the U.S., right? That's important for them, obviously. A lot of them are publicly traded and whatnot. But brands can come to Europe right now, so that's the cool thing. So one cool thing is, uh, the pharmacies, which sound very clinical, right?
Yeah, I saw the photo you post on LinkedIn the other day at an opening somewhere, and I wasn't sure where it was. It looks like you said it. It looks like a regular American dispensary. I was shocked because the last time I talked to anyone over there, it was, like the pharmacies that you see over there, you know. So I was
Yeah.
surprised to see that. What's happening?
Yes, their pharmacies are de facto dispensaries, like I said. It's bananas, it's buck wild. It is wild, wild west in Germany. It is, and I love it, because I'm a legalizer at heart, I want to be smart and do smart things for the industry, right? But I'm a total freedom and liberty human, and I don't, I think all drugs should be legal. I don't use all drugs. I only use alcohol and tobacco and cannabis, but I'm a super freedom guy. But what's cool about uh, the um, uh, the pharmacies is that you can brand in pharmacies, right? So there is some form of branding through a pharmacy.
Mm.
So Cheech and Chong cannabis is sold in German pharmacies, for example, right?
I knew they were over there. I didn't know what
It
they.
doesn't have them right there, all you know, like with their uh, faces on it, but it says Cheech and Chong on the
Oh,
package.
okay. Okay. And everybody knows what that is. So what are they selling? What kind of products?
I'm not sure what products they're selling. I mean, it's flour, right?
Oh,
But I
so
don't know which strains exactly.
so there's no edibles allowed. It's still it's vapes, flour and capsules. Is that about?
Basically, yeah, it's flour and then non-solvent extractions. But I think they're finding ways to do edibles too through magistral preparations. It's like you have this cannabis, so then I think there's some ambiguity of what a pharmacist, what is a pharmacist allowed to do and what they're not. I'll say that they're pushing the envelope, but in general, no, edibles weren't allowed, and eating it's not allowed. But that's an irony, right? Because obviously, if you're talking about health, you want to
Yeah,
be able to eat your cannabis, not always smoke it.
right. I know. No, really, seriously. Yeah. Winding down. Is there anything, or I guess the last question, is do you see like in the whole like landscape of what's going on over there now, do you see any problems that need solving? Like where do you see some kind of maybe there isn't any, but
Well, things like the medibles or whatever, but in terms of just general legislation or regulatory stuff, okay, so there can be more uniform harmonization through all EU countries eventually, but I don't think that's going to happen for a while.
yeah.
Honestly, I think that every country in Europe needs to take cannabis off the narcotics list. Just do what Germany did. I think Germany's medical system, as it is right now, I think we're going to look back in 5, 10 years at this and say, call these the golden years.
Mm,
And I think that in some ways, nothing needs to be fixed now because through this, you know, I don't think any state has taken it off the narcotics list in America, right? It's still a narcotic everywhere, as far as I know, every country, every state. What Germany did by taking it off the narcotics list is so massive. It just takes the wind out of the sail of everyone because it's not a narcotic, you
right.
know? And and now
But it's not recreational. So it's not a narcotic, but it can't be recreational.
can't be recreational, but there's those end arounds through that, through the social clubs, it can be recreational, and
Right.
through the pilot projects, it can be recreational. So which Germany has. But the real market right now, until the pilot projects get going, because social clubs are all it's only for Germans and they're only for locales and they have 500 members, right? So I
How's
think what's that?
how's that going?
Well, it's a little bit tough because they've made the regulations very
Yeah.
difficult to apply for a social club. But humans are amazing, and where there's a will, there's a way. And so it's happening, uh, and it's going to be a big part of. It's going to be a big market driver also for a lot of different things. Um, I'm not so. I mean, I'm a total legalizer. I think cannabis should be like tomatoes, but I don't. The social club thing is just. I don't know how I feel about it. I'll have to see how it plays out, you know. It just like all you need if you're gonna if what I would suggest to a country a country who was going to legalize cannabis or going to modernize their cannabis policy, that they would take cannabis off their narcotics list. And once you do that, then you have de facto, you can create a de facto legalization system,
Mhm.
adult use system or medical system. And in the medical system's even better. It's like in Cali and Oregon where people are like, don't legalize, it's going to fuck up the medical. And I was like, well, I'm a legalizer. I can't go against legalization. I actually lost a lot of money because I had a big medical marijuana clinic, but I was so convicted. But now, as we see what's happening in California, it's like, you know what? They were better under medical.
That's what people say. Yeah, it really got
Really de facto. Go get your card. Spend $50. Get your card for a year. You're good. You know, that's
mm,
fine. And it's even better because then kids can get it too if they need it. You know, if they have an ailment. And
mm.
also in Germany, they take your license away if you get cannabis in your blood, even if you're not driving. Right? It's
Oh,
insane. So if you have your medical prescription, then it's a firewall. It's not a impenetrable firewall, but it's a big protection for things like that also. So to me, in one way, the only thing that needs to be fixed is more countries need to do exactly what Germany did in terms of taking cannabis off the illicit drug list.
right, right. That's what we need to do. Right. Well, so wow, that was great, Alex. Thank you so much. I think that was a good overview of everything. And I'm
A
excited.
lot of cool stuff happening here,
A
Pam. That's
lot
for
of cool
sure.
stuff. I wish I was in your shoes. I think you're in a great position. I think it's really cool. And Talman House is definitely just gonna it's gonna be the it, member club to be in.